I was DJing on the radio, and at night I could play whatever I wanted on that station. But in the morning, I was the morning guy. I had to play like, solo Phil Collins. I'm like, I can't, this is driving me nuts. So, and then I would get in trouble if I cracked the jokes. So I said, I'm just going to go up on stage, and have that freedom. And then when I went up, the first time, I was like, man, this is what and it was actually in Fort Lauderdale. I was on vacation with a girlfriend at the time. And it took me about a year and a half to actually have the guts to go up on stage. I was petrified of public speaking. A DJ, you hidden in a booth, you really don't have to talk, whatever. And there was like an open mic night. I remember we were driving from the airport, and I saw that on like, Commercial Boulevard. I'm like, oh man, I got to go there on Tuesday night because no one knows me down here. And I did really bad, but I got one laugh because some guy heckled me and I said something back. And that jolt, that, reaction I got from that laugh, I was like, man, that felt good. And then I just stuck with it.
It does. That's addicting. Like even being a singer, when people are just like loving it.
Yeah.
It's definitely like an addictive feeling.
Hey there, hot messes. Welcome to Success of a Hot Mess, where we celebrate the art of juggling life's chaos and coming out on top. I'm Stacey Isaacs, your host and resident rock star lawyer, dance mom, and survivor. We're going to dive into candid conversations about conquering challenges, embracing our unique selves, and finding success in the beautiful mess of it all.
Good morning. Welcome to Success of a Hot Mess podcast, brought to you by workinjuryrights.com. This morning, I have the privilege and honor of having Jim Florentine on the show. Thank you for coming, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you have a lengthy resume, but I'm going to put it in a nutshell. If I forget anything, let me know. Jim is an American stand-up comedian, actor, author, voice artist, best known for your work on Comedy Central's Crank Yankers. You invented characters like Special Ed, Bobby Fletcher. You also co-hosted VH1's classic That Metal Show, a talk show dedicated to hard rock and heavy metal. More recently, you have your podcast, Everyone is Awful, of which I am a huge, huge fan. And you're still touring, right?
Yep.
Did I leave anything out? I know you had...
That's it. Well, yeah, whatever. I'm a comic. I just tell jokes.
Okay. Yeah. You do more than tell jokes, though. Yours is what appeals to me is it's a very dry sense of humor, but I feel like you are saying things that everyone's thinking, or at least most normal people are thinking, but we just don't say out loud. I heard one of your older podcasts, and the whole thing was just about how Costco is such a big freaking scam and how everybody that goes there is just basically being defrauded. And I was just like laughing the whole time. Like, it's just stuff we all think, but nobody says out loud.
Yeah, well, that's it. If you have a family of 7 or something like that, then Costco will be worth it. But when you got you and maybe one kid, there's 3 people living in a house, and you got to go drive 19 miles to the Costco instead of a half a mile down the road to the Publix. And you think you're set, so that's 38 miles round trip, and you think you're saving all this money, and you're buying, 25 pounds of spaghetti, or fruit, 6 pounds of fruit, and then you got to eat it within 2 weeks before it goes bad. That's just dumb, because you think you're getting a deal,
right? And you're paying the yearly
membership. Like, what other place would you have to pay to shop? Like, imagine you're just driving down to Florida or something like that, or taking a road trip, and you go, let's stop at a supermarket. Get a few things. And they go, hey, listen, you got to pay to shop here. You'd be like, I'm not paying to shop here. So you're already in the hole.
Right. So I found that one particularly funny. But basically, for people who don't know, your podcast, Everybody is Awful, it's really kind of poking fun at some of these ridiculous stories that people post all over the place, all platforms, pictures of food I know you particularly hate. You have a particular rage against coffee, so I just wanted to make sure you're aware this is just water today.
I know. I drink coffee. I don't mind it. It's just that people brag that they drink coffee. Adults, which is mind-boggling.
So the suburban mom with the Yeti full of coffee, that sends you into basically a rage, right?
Well, they all have to. If it's Yeti is the new brand, then they all have to get it. Like, Yeti is better than any other thing. It costs 3 times the amount of a regular tumbler. And then they all have to bring it in the morning. Like, if there's like a kid's basketball game or a kid's event, and it's before like 9 o'clock. They have to walk in with their coffee mugs. Hey, I'm a mom and I just woke up and I got a lot going on. I need to wake up. So let me bring my coffee. They can't finish it in the car or finish it at home. They got to bring it to the field or in the auditorium. They have to. And you see like 9 of them walk in with them. They all do.
Well, I know you have a teenage son, and I have teenage daughters. If you ask your son, Yeti is in the past. Now they're called Stanleys.
But that's the new brand, or is it?
The new brand, and it's $40 for like a tumbler.
Okay, yeah. So that, of course, so everyone that bought their Yeti coolers and their Yeti suitcases and everything else, now they're onto something else. And now we got to replace that with Stanley because that's what everybody else has.
You also do not really like people who are posting purely for attention. So it's okay to like post a few pictures of your kids. I think you feel that way. But once people have more than maybe 3 sentences under whatever they're posting, it starts to become something we can all make fun of. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, Facebook was originally like if you had family that lived across the country, overseas or whatever like that, you got your kids, they're growing up, you take pictures and they could see them instead of, so that was the way to connect with people. But then it became a whole other thing. Like now I need to brag and it's basically people in high school. They all have to try to top each other. Someone's getting attention. I think I have to get more attention. How can I get attention? Because they're getting a lot of comments. Now I need a lot of comments. It's all a competition.
I agree with you. Do you have Facebook?
Yeah, I do, but only for business purpose. I don't post any family stuff or anything like that.
Right.
It's nobody's business. My family's my family, and then, we do it in a private text, which that's what people should do.
And you have a large family, right?
Yeah, it's 7 kids, 7 of us.
Wow. And where do you fall within those 7?
In the middle.
How's that? How is that growing up in the middle?
I don't, if I was 2nd or 5th, I don't think it would make a difference.
No, but I've heard you discuss your upbringing in the Catholic school and you're always messing around and basically a prankster, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just, growing up in New Jersey, that's what you do. You just, especially in a Catholic school, you're bored. You don't want to be there. Your parents put you there because they thought it was a better education. It really wasn't. By the time I got to 7th grade, went to public school, I was way behind on everything.
Okay.
So what, when the priest is teaching you math or the nun is teaching you social studies, they don't know that shit.
Was that an all boys school?
No, it was co-ed.
Okay. Not Bishop R. You know that school?
No, but it was St. Ambrose in like Old Bridge, New Jersey. And then I moved to Florida after my sophomore year in high school. And I went to Cardinal Gibbons High School in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. That's still a good school, actually.
Yeah.
That's right. We have the New Jersey connection. And I think that's also another thing you make fun of in your stand-up.
Where did you grow? You grew up where?
Edison.
Okay. Yeah.
Exit 131. Which is now basically the entire town is Indian.
Yeah, I know. It's completely changed.
It is so no, it started when I was in high school and my grandfather at my graduation, because they said like Patel. He's like, that's a big family. But our Dairy Queen is now like an Indian market, and no shade to the Indian community. Like they're very peace-loving people. It wasn't a bad place to grow up, but getting bundled up for school. Like I can't picture doing that with my kids. I'm glad we live in Florida.
Well, that's why you understand the rage of my podcast. You grew up in New Jersey. So you grew up on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, whatever, Boston. You understand the rage. Most people don't get it, which is fine. It's not for everybody, but.
No, it's something like I was just born with. Like everything. I grew up like angry. Like there's a baby picture of me with like a scowl, like an infant, just pissed off. And it's been hard down here even to make friends because people think, she's a bitch or I have a resting bitch face, but I'm just not going to walk around like smiling all the time. I'm sure you get that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, when I lived down in Florida for a little while too, it was tough to make friends because everybody's kind of just keeps to themselves. They're always from somewhere else. They're not native Floridians or anything like that. So you get these weirdos. A lot in Florida used to be anyone that was running from some kind of problem.
No, it still is. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could like file for bankruptcy, but keep your house or something like that. Like,
Right. And you did something shady in another state where you were from and you moved to Florida to lay low. That's
right.
where Florida used to always be. It changed a little with the pandemic when people started moving down there, but still that was the case. So you were never going to meet real friends and just a bunch of weirdos
Yeah. It was
with
great
shady
down here.
pasts, you know,
It
with
was
shady pasts.
It was great down here during COVID, though. My kids went to school. We ran our business. You know, it was. I'm a fan of Florida.
No, believe me, I was jealous, you know. Then New Jersey was closed for like friggin' 2 years, basically.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay, can you tell me how you got into this business? Like for all of us who have like, yes, I'm a lawyer, but my passion is singing in a rock band. Obviously, that never took off. That's why I'm still playing Coral Springs bars and all that. But how did you get your big break?
Yeah, but that's okay. Look, as long as you like love what you're doing, it's not about the money, and it's never been about the money with me. I just, you know, I was DJing and I liked it, but then when I was on the radio, I got in trouble for what I said, and I was like, I'm not listening to anybody. I had to play certain music, whatever the format was, and I'm like,
well, not to interrupt, but you're DJing. I have an idea why that might not have worked out. Like, did you say you were only playing death metal in clubs?
No, I was DJing. You probably, I don't know if you were down there at the time. It was Art Stock's Playpen. It was on Federal Highway in Fort Lauderdale. Then it became Pure Platinum, the strip club. But
yes,
I was the heavy metal DJ down there. And then when I moved back to New Jersey, and I was also DJing weddings. So I was doing weddings and parties. No. It was just regular. I bought all the regular stuff. You know, I had a DJ business. And then I was DJing on the radio. And at night, I could play whatever I wanted on that station. But in the morning, I was the morning guy. I had to play like, you know, solo Phil Collins. I'm like, I can't. This is driving me nuts. So, and then I would get in trouble if I cracked a joke. So I said, I'm just going to go up on stage, you know, and have that freedom. And then when I went up, you know, the first time, I was like, man, this is what and it was actually in Fort Lauderdale. I was on vacation with a girlfriend at the time. And it took me about a year and a half to actually have the guts to go up on stage. I was petrified of public speaking. A DJ, you hidden at a booth, you really don't have to talk, whatever. And there was like an open mic night. I remember we were driving from the airport and I saw that on like, you know, Commercial Boulevard. I'm like, oh man, I got to go there on Tuesday night because no one knows me down here. And I did really bad, but I got one laugh because some guy heckled me and I said something back. And that just that jolt, that, you know, reaction I got from that laugh, I was like, man, that felt good. And then I just stuck with it.
It does. That's addicting. Like even being a singer, when people are just like loving it.
Yeah.
It's definitely like an addictive feeling. But okay, you started with the open mic. Then how did you make this leap? Like I heard you on Howard Stern a bunch of times. Then you get like the show. How does all that happen?
You know, you're kicking around, you're working your craft, and then eventually, you know, you get a break. I was messing with telemarketers, you know, doing prank calls when they would come, incoming calls, and I put a CD out. I just published it myself. You know, I figured I'd just sell it after a show, get my name out there, and I mailed it in the Howard Stern show. And they started playing on the air the next day. He's like, I got to have this guy in studio. And it just happened just like that. It was crazy. I was already about 9 years into my career at that point when I got that big break.
That had to be intimidating a little bit going on Howard.
It was because, well, I was a huge fan, so I knew the show. I would listen, you know, I was doing construction, all these shitty jobs and stuff. And I remember I told everyone like, hey, no power tools when Howard's on, do it during the commercials. So, you know, just so I can hear the show. So I knew what the show was about. It was still intimidating going in there and sitting in for a whole day. But I was like, hey, man, this is my chance. I can't blow it. You know, I've been doing this stuff for a long time. This will take me to the next level.
And that worked out, right?
Yeah, it worked out great. Got everything pretty much I got in my career is because I was on that show.
Right.
So, and that was huge.
You wound up dating Robin Quivers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was funny because I heard your Travis Kelce episode on the podcast and how like he's probably just dating Taylor Swift for the clout. And you're like, people accuse me of dating Robin for clout, but like I would take her to Applebee's with a gift card, hoping nobody would see me. I thought that was very funny.
I didn't, you know, because people always said maybe you probably did that to advance your career. My career was already established at that point. And I didn't even plan on asking her out. It was just kind of thing that happened on the air. I was single. You know, we talked about that. And Robin was single at the time. And they just started, Howard's like, hey, how about you two getting together? And we're like, and we were just, messing around. Artie Lang was in the studio, just all this stuff. And then she's like, all right, I'll go out with you. I'm like, wow, really? All right. So I wasn't planning on asking her. And then we were friends for a while and, it lasted for a little while. But yeah, but I didn't do it for that at all. I hated that. Like I'm a pretty private with my stuff. I don't like, and then that's when they had like the Howard Stern News. So they had everyone following you around. There's hotline set up. If you see those guys out, call in. I hated that stuff. I'm like, oh man, I don't need this shit.
Does your son think you're like the coolest thing ever?
Nah, I'm his dad, so.
I know, but if you were my dad, which you obviously can't be because I think we're about the same age, but I would just be like, come on, Dad, let's make prank calls all day.
Well, he does it. He does do prank calls because I still do them. And the phone will ring and like, Dad, can I get this one? I'm like, yeah, you go do it. And he's pretty good at it. Some it's like similar to mine. He's like, oh, it sounds similar to your call. That's all right. You're learning. You have to have an influence, obviously. But no, he loves it. But, I'm still his dad. So you just have to discipline him. I hate it. I'm like, listen, I don't want to tell you. You have to just finish your dinner. Just do it. I don't want to be that person, but you have to, at some point. I got to tell him, with just homework and all that stuff. So I hate to be a nag, but you got as a parent. Yeah, so he doesn't think I'm that cool because of that.
Oh, okay. But like, I'm sure some of his friends' parents know who you are.
The kids do too, from TikTok and all that stuff. Yeah. They'll listen to my prank calls and stuff like, oh, your dad's stuff is so funny, all that stuff. Because it's like, it's all those prank calls, or there's no cursing or anything like that. And, they're kind of evergreen. They were done 20 years ago and they're still funny. Like there's no like, God, it's kind of dated.
They are evergreen. But to show you how old this one is that I was listening to, like you were calling a record store. Like who has record stores anymore? And this poor guy, you kept asking him for a specific song if he had the album, and you kept making him sing the line. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was from Crank Anchor's special ed. Yeah. Yeah, we just called the record store. That's probably like 2004. And I said, I'll make up some kind of, beat. And I just made it up. And you got that one? He's like, I don't know. It was just going on and on. Yeah.
It was so funny. And the guy was so nice to stay on the phone. I mean, he thought you were retarded, I guess.
Yeah. And I kept calling him lady. He's like, lady? It was a guy. Yeah, he's like, lady.
Yes. So I'm either really immature or this is just universally funny stuff because it still just makes me laugh.
It's just childish. It brings you back to, not taking life so seriously and laughing at a stupid prank call. That's all it is.
Yeah. But now it's like there's caller ID. I mean, we didn't have all that stuff. So you could just call. Nobody knew who was calling. You could make your prank calls. And
there's ways around it. You star 69, it comes up private or out of area or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but the my stuff is all incoming, my telemarketer stuff. So they're calling me. The Crank Anchor stuff actually were calling out. They were outgoing calls. Okay. But most of my stuff is incoming.
When it says like spam, you're like, oh, let me get my record on. And
well, I do it only on my home phone. I don't do it on my cell phone. So my phone rings constantly, because I'm not on the do not call list, and I actually have a home phone. I think there's like some kind of list out there, like these companies, if someone picks up on that line, they think it's a live line, they probably sell that information to these other spam companies. So my phone rings constantly.
So once you get a good one, when a telemarketer is bothering you and you're like, this is a good one, do you have to ask them for permission or anything?
No, technically you don't have to because it's an incoming call. They're calling you. You just have to beep out their name and company. I usually do and get, they're fine with it. But outgoing calls, you have to. You have to get the permission. We did it with Crank Anchors, but incoming's a different kind of law with that stuff.
But aren't they generally from like the Philippines or India?
No, not really. Not the, someone's trying to sell me a new roof, warranty package. I get a lot of that, a mortgage. So they're not from India. I think the ones on the cell phone are those.
Oh, right. I just lost my thought. That's what happens in your 50s. Is it hard? You're divorced, right?
Yeah.
Is it hard being in the dating scene? Like, do people want you to make them laugh? I'm sure you don't want to be on all the time.
No, not at all. No. I know that's like, when I'm not on stage, I don't want to talk about the business. I don't want It's like I don't ask the guy, that's a doctor. Hey, you have any good visits lately? Anything interesting happen? Like nobody else talks about their work, but with a comic. So I try to, I can leave that stuff separate.
No, like I'm saying, your girlfriends.
No, they don't. Well, they think, I think they're intrigued a little bit, in the beginning, like every, beginning of a relationship. And then by 6 months, they're like, please don't say anything. I'd rather you not say anything.
No, but are you just funny all the time, or is it just?
It's just sarcastic and dry, but some people take it the wrong way. No, I don't go to. I'm not the life of the party.
Okay,
the
you're
guys that
probably
walk
antisocial.
Yeah, that's the better comedians are the antisocial ones that sit back and observe, and that's where they get the guy that comes in and wants to get all the attention. He's a terrible comedian.
Right. Now, what do you do at this point if you're getting heckled in a crowd?
I get heckled all the time. I just,
You do?
I don't know how I deal with it. Depends, I try to diffuse it early before I go in for the kill. Because sometimes if you just say something really nasty right off the bat, the crowd will turn on you. It all depends on the situation, but I'm always get drunk people. What did I get heckled at the show you were at?
Not heckled. The guy was sort of like kissing your ass. He was just like, you were great at somewhere in New York. And
oh, okay. Yeah, I just get drunk people all the time. It depends on the situation, but I try to diffuse it, and then slowly just break it down. And then if they keep going, then I just,
Well, when I saw Andrew Dice Clay at the same spot that you were at, like he's obviously lost his patience for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And he just was going off on people. He's like, why are you recording me? You're literally never going to watch this video. Put the goddamn phone down. And you could tell he's had enough.
No, I work with him a lot and he's a friend. And at one point, I remember one time some guy was heckling him in the front. He said, listen, I can have you thrown out, or I want you to go to the back of the room and stand against the wall and just look at the wall for 10 minutes.
I like that. That's
and the guy stood and looked at the wall for 10 minutes. And after about 10 minutes, he goes, all right, you can come back to your seat. Like he punished him. That was beautiful.
That's amazing.
A grown man has to stand against the wall and look at the wall. Can't even look at the show.
That's amazing. Speaking of grown men, you have described grown men who take selfies as that being a mental illness. And I would agree with you on that.
It is. It's mentally ill. If you look in their eyes and their face, they're mentally ill. Look, if you're out with your girlfriend, you want to take it, just don't put it out there. If you need to take a picture, if you're somewhere with your girlfriend or your wife and you want it for your photos, that's fine. But for a guy to do it by himself and say, hey, I'm here, at the fucking, Disney World, and he takes a picture of himself, he's mentally ill.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's a whole Facebook group called DILFs, dads I'd like to F.
Right.
And they post pictures of themselves, I guess, all over. So there's like hot dads in Disney, and then they put the pictures on this page.
What, to get women to maybe date them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just it's mind-boggling that it really is. If you look in their eyes, they're ill.
But there's so many of them. They're everywhere.
Yeah, well, and the women love to take it in the car seat, in their driver's
the
seat.
Seatbelt's always on.
Yeah, with the seatbelt, because they might get yelled at if they don't have a seatbelt on. One person that comments say, "Hey, you don't have a seatbelt on," and I don't even want that. It's crazy. But the men, I don't have a problem with the women doing it. Women love taking pictures. And I get all of that. That's fine. But just grown men taking a picture themselves and then putting it out there. I'm having a good day today. What do you guys think of my new sunglasses? It's like, who gives a shit?
Or worse, flexing at the gym and then saying beast mode.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's that too. The guy grunting in the gym. The gym is a whole other thing where everybody in there is vowing, 80% of people are just looking for attention in the gym. Those people.
I think it's people a little younger than us, because I go in the gym and in the bathroom, there's just a slew of girls that look like 20 just taking selfies in the bathroom.
What, in the mirror?
Yes, there's 5 of them. They're not even in shape or anything. I don't even get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's for young people, but I'm just saying, like a guy in his 50s, his 40s, or his 60s taking a picture of himself and put that online is embarrassing.
I'm with you. Did your family support this career path?
Yeah, they did. Most of my family got into real estate. I got one brother's a lawyer, and they wanted me to get in real estate with them, but that wasn't my thing. I was bouncing around from job to job, figuring out what I wanted to do. And once I started doing stand up, I think they were just happy I found something I really liked. I didn't start till I was like 25. I was just fucking around and stuff. So, yeah, they were totally, and they're still to this day, they come to my show all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to believe it's a hard career path though. Like maybe you don't do late nights anymore. Like the show I went to ended at like 10 or something, but weekends, you're away from your kid and like all this travel, and congrats on the whole London show coming up or wherever it is in England. That's exciting.
Yeah. No, it is. It's not easy. It's, there is a lot of travel, and yeah, no, it is late nights, especially when you have a kid. Like before I had a kid, I was go to bed at like 1, get up around 9, 10 maybe, or something like that, 2, get up at 10. And all of a sudden now I'm up when I'm at 6:15 in the morning for school to get them ready. And then on the weekends I'm out, I was in Minnesota last week, and the late show didn't end till like 11:45. And that's an hour difference. So it's really 12:45, and then during the week I'm up at 6:15. So my sleep schedule's all messed up. But I still love it. It's like, I just got to deal with it. As long as I'm not drinking and getting 3 hours of sleep and trying to get up hungover and stuff, that's tough.
So do you just tour like in perpetuity, or is there like, a hard stop in like August and you take some time off?
Nah, it's basically like a regular job for me. I don't usually work earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I work like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I really work like 3 days a week to actually do it stand up, somewhere around there. But I just love doing it, and it's still fun for me. The traveling's a little difficult, but you just deal with it. I used to mow lawns down in Florida in August, like 20 a day, when it was 110 degrees out with that humidity. So that was a tough job.
Yeah, I would think so. Did you go to college?
I went to 2 years at a community college. It was a communications college, which is great. I learned radio, TV, acting, all that stuff. I loved it.
That's cool.
And after 2 years, I was already on the radio. I go, this is all I need. I don't need to go to 4 years for what, so.
Yeah. Was that in Jersey?
Yeah.
Middlesex?
Brookdale Community College. I went to Middlesex Community College for one semester. My dad wanted to be an accountant. And I went there, and after one semester, I go, Dad, I don't want to do this. I don't want to crunch numbers. There's a communications college. They got all radio and TV. I can learn it all out. He's like, all right, if that's where you want to go there.
So I had a guy on my podcast. He's local here in Florida. He does amazing Trump impressions. He can do some other people, but Trump is like his best. Like, what would be your best advice for a young comedian who is like really having trouble breaking out into the industry?
Well, he's just got to, hopefully it catches on social media.
Well, it's a good thing Trump won. Like, he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do if Kamala.
Right. If he didn't, yeah, that would be a problem. But no, he could definitely, with TikTok or Instagram, put that shit out there, and some of his videos catch fire, and that all of a sudden he can have a huge audience. So it's easier now for a comic to break through than it was when I first started, because you only had a few options: the late night talk shows, doing stand up on there. And, 3 people a year would get an HBO special or Comedy Central, and that was it.
Yeah, actually, and you guys didn't have TikTok and all the social media.
Yeah, so we just had to do it a different way. So now these comics can do it through social media. They can build up their own following. They don't have to go through the business model anymore, which is great for them.
Do you have any like crazy fans that you ever were like, ugh, like this chick has to just I need a restraining order?
No, not really. No, people come to see you a bunch of times, and then at some point they're like, yeah, I've seen that guy enough. But no, I've really had that before. We don't get too many crazy, more dudes, but they're not even like that psycho or anything like that. So no, it hasn't really happened.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I'm probably the biggest psycho fan that you have. I send in a lot of stories.
No, that's good. I appreciate it. Like a lot of people who listen to my podcast do. They know the vibe of the podcast and what I would what I would
Yeah.
what I would hate, and it's perfect. Yeah.
I see a lot of the same names, like we all comment on the podcast.
Yeah. I know it's great. But yeah, because you sent one in about that woman said she just woke up like this, without even putting makeup on. Her hair was perfect. Her hair's just as long as yours and looked just like that. And she had like, these tight yoga pants on with like a sports bra. I'm like, that's how you slept?
I know. You're like, women sleep in tight pants now.
Yeah. And your hair looked just like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd
It's
be
like, why?
scary.
What are you doing?
No, women should really post what they look like when they wake up. It'd be very funny.
Yeah. We know that. There's no way she didn't wear that to bed. And her hair would never look like that with her hair that long. It would never.
But you must have to read so much just to keep up like with the podcast content, because we're sending in so much stuff. It's a lot of reading. I thought about that.
Yeah, it is. But I just go through them. I skim through them. Like, yeah, I could find an angle on this, or I'm like, this one's really not going to work. So I just delete it. But yeah, I do. But that's part of the job. But part of doing it. It's doing like the research, basically.
Yeah, you could probably have your son do some of the reading.
He could. I show him some of the stuff. He's like, look, I don't want him to turn him so sour on life.
We really are so sour.
Yeah.
And the funniest part of me being so enraged and angry of a human is that at my law, I don't handle cases anymore because we have lawyers who handle them. I'm in charge of client satisfaction. So I get all the complaints and the escalation calls, and we all just laugh at how just innately funny that is because I'm so angry, and I am one of those people that you detest that will write a bad review, but not for like food or, like you said, Chuck E. Cheese complaining about the food. But real quickly, I told you I was going to tell you a story of how I got sued for a review. This wound up being like a huge nightmare in my life, but I paid a lot of money for this tattoo removal service. You pay it all up front. They say, we're going to keep giving you these treatments till the tattoo's gone. I missed a session during COVID. I was like waiting on, remember, it was really scary. I was waiting on results of a test. I straight up no-showed for the appointment. And they sent me a text saying, you have to pay a no-show fee of $550 or we are discontinuing your treatment. So I'm left with like half a paw tattoo on my ass. It wasn't completed. I was like, listen, here's the results of my COVID test. It wound up being negative, but calling you to cancel my tattoo removal was not at the top of my mind. They fought with me. So then I blasted them on every platform, like Google, Yelp, that these people are holding on to my money. Like something like that, you would make an exception, like it's okay to write a bad review?
Absolutely, because that's what, instead of, my mozzarella sticks were a little cold. Or, the hostess didn't smile when she greeted us. That's what people are complaining about.
But that is like the opposite of your personality and rage. Like, isn't it annoying to you that like, let's say you have to run into Target and like the cashier is just an imbecile and it's taking 25 minutes to ring up one thing. Like, doesn't
it is, but I also don't go home and write about it. Go to Target and go, I had this worst experience at Target. I know the teenager doesn't want to be there. They don't care. They're looking at their phone. Maybe they're texting in between the next customer, ringing them up or whatever. They don't, so I get that. So I take that into consideration. I can get aggravated, but I'm not going to go trash the business over something small like that. Well, in your case, absolutely, you should warn people, hey, if you miss one appointment, they're going to charge you $550 or cancel the rest of your shit. That's a different thing than going, it took, it's always the restaurants. It took an hour for a waitress to come over to give us water. Really, you sat there an hour and then another 45 minutes to get our drinks. And then we sat another hour before she, took our order. You didn't sit there for 2.5 hours. So stop lying.
Yeah, that I would agree with you. But like rudeness, I don't like when people are rude, like when you're paying for a service or whatever. But they were so beyond rude that I tried to work it out with them first. And then I think they saw, oh, she's a lawyer, like, F this, we're going to sue her. And they did sue me, which was ridiculous. I had to pay another lawyer. And they eventually dropped it because they went bankrupt. But not because of me, because of the 200 other bad reviews.
So they sued you for what, like defamation or something?
Yes, they sued me for defamation. They demanded $150,000. It was kind of a nightmare. So now I'm very careful about my reviews.
Right. But then it never had nothing. It got dropped because they ran out of money.
They couldn't pay their lawyer. So
Right.
Yeah. And they had so many bad reviews, so they deserved it. But I agree with you, like the little mom and pop shop, like give them a little break.
Give them a little break. And the waitress that doesn't want to be there or they're short staffed, give them a break that it took a little longer to get your food, to get the bill. Who cares? That's more, I have a problem with that stuff. The pizza place, the wings were a little rubbery and they take a picture of the wings. Never going back again. You're eating at a pizza place. It's not going to be great.
Right. Yeah, I get that. But what about, like, you have talked about putting the do not disturb sign on the hotel room because you want to sleep and they still knock on the door. Like, you'll let that go too?
Yeah, I'm not going to go to the, Holiday Inn and go, hey, they knocked on my door. I'll tell them at the front desk, hey, listen, man, they're knocking on my door. I don't need any service. I got the sign on the door. But I had some incidents with that stuff before. I unplugged the phone too, so they can't even call the room. Call the room. You need any service?
They must think you're dead in there.
No, what's great is a lot of times now, I think they're trying to save money. A lot of hotels, they're saying, listen, we're not going to service the room unless you ask, which is great. I don't need my bed made every day. I'm not a child. I'm okay. I don't make it at home, so I don't need it on the road. I don't need fresh sheets every day that I'm staying in a hotel for 3 days. I'm fine. I got 17 towels in there. I don't need towels either. I'm good.
Now, do these venues pay for your travel expenses?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. They'll give you a certain amount of, buyout money or whatever, the flight
and
and
the
hotel.
Flights or no?
Yeah, the flight and the hotel, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I know your time is valuable. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to try to make it to your Naples show because that's not far. Why don't you tell the listeners that I do have where they can find out where your shows are?
Just go to my website, jimflorentine.com. All the tour dates are there. My podcast comes out every Monday. Everybody is awful. Wherever you listen to podcasts.
Oh, and Patreon, you can get the extra
episodes. Yeah. And then also my latest comedy specials on Amazon Prime. You can't please them all.
I know you shouldn't have told me that because I watched it and then I went to your show and some of it was similar.
I don't think I did anything that was similar on there.
About your son and
the only thing I think I did was my his name, Luke, spelled the right way. Other than that, I don't think I did anything.
Okay. Yeah. I think it might a little bit about like the female teachers that are.
Yeah, it's different because it keeps changing.
That's true.
Every day there's more and more of that shit going on. Yeah, that's a whole. I know I've done that like 3 different times the last few specials, but it's like, the thing is, no one's talking about that. It's amazing.
I know.
Teachers getting caught with these students, the female teachers, and it's almost like what the priests were back in the day. They kind of just another priest, and then we realized, all right, this has got to stop. Like no parent now would let their 14-year-old kid go on a camping trip with the priest for the weekend. We know now there's no way that's going to happen, and that we have to get that with the teachers.
But do you notice it's always Florida teachers?
Not necessarily. No, they're a lot from Florida, but all over. You get Michigan, New Jersey. You get New Jersey. You get them all over.
I just saw one. It wasn't a teacher, but it said like Florida woman has sex with her dog on camera. Like it's always Florida. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah, a lot of it is from Florida, but no, but the teachers, it's all over the country. It's happening everywhere.
That classy lady in Pennsylvania that pooped on someone's car in a road rage.
Yeah, in a road rage. Did you see the video?
No, I don't want to watch the video.
No, they blurred it out, but it's right in the middle of the
you said it was like a big diarrhea mess.
Yeah, it was. Well, I saw the unedited version of it, but it was right in the middle of a neighborhood in the middle of the day.
And she didn't wipe or anything. Just
no. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was good for your podcast, though.
Yeah, that's trashy South Jersey,
Yeah,
Philly,
I'm from Central Jersey, high class.
Yeah, because South Jersey, it's like not even New Jersey.
It's Philadelphia.
Yeah, and it's like I don't even know people down there. And it's it's a whole other state.
Yeah. Where do you, this is my last question for you, but how do you find these like random comedy club? Like what's Endicott, New York? I've never heard of it. Where is that?
I think that's like Binghamton, New York or something.
Oh,
You know,
sweet.
it's comedy clubs pop up all over the place. You know, so you just, you have an agent and they're like, hey, this
Okay.
place wants you to perform there. You want to do it, basically.
But how come you don't do Miami? Like there's so many places.
That's not because the white guys don't work well in Miami. They don't.
You're
And,
probably
and that's been for years. Like I used to do the Improv at Coconut Grove. And at some point, about 2008, they go, listen, white guys really aren't drawing crowds here. So we're going to go with the Latino and the black acts, the urban acts.
You're right. Because my band played in Doral, Florida.
Yeah.
Like they hated us, never asked us back. And, we don't do any Spanish music. So.
Yeah. So that's the area. So Miami just doesn't work. Miami's never been a great comedy scene. But if you're Latino or something like that, it's perfect. So I stick with like, Fort Lauderdale, Boca, and then the west coast of Florida.
Okay. I want to, even though we're both so full of rage, I want to end on like a really positive note. Who is the nicest comedian that you know? But I'm talking like level of like Conan, like in that, or Louis C.K. Who's the least douchebag guy? Or girl?
Trying to think.
Is Sarah Silverman cool?
Nikki Glaze is great.
Is she?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've known her for a long time. She's
funny.
awesome. Shane Gillis is awesome. Real down to earth. Joe Rogan.
Really?
Good dude. Yeah. Nick DiPaolo. Colin Quinn. Great guy.
Sebastian Maniscalco?
Yeah, he's a good dude. I don't know him that well. We've hung out a few times, did some shows together, but everyone always has nice stuff to say about him too. Who else?
Or who's the worst? Or you don't have to say.
I don't, I get along with everybody. I don't get involved in the comedy drama and stuff like that. I just stick to myself, so, look, I know most comedians got problems, so I understand that. Most of them, have narcissistic personality disorder, so I understand how crazy they are.
And like addiction problems, right?
Usually, because you got a lot of free time too. Yeah.
Well, and depression. It seems like a lot of comedians are deeply depressed.
Yeah, you get that too. I don't know what the theory is on that.
I don't know, but have you met Pete Davidson?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's got look what happened with his dad in 9/11. So
yeah,
that's going to affect, I don't know what happened in his childhood or whatever, but it usually stems from the childhood, the depression. And maybe that's why comedians are drawn to it. I don't know. They're loners, they're weirdos.
Did you have a good childhood?
I think so. Yeah. There was 7 of us. So, you're probably vying for attention. But a bunch of friends. We went on vacations. My parents were together.
What kind of vacations could like your parents afford for 7 kids?
We go to Florida because we had a lot of relatives down there, Fort Lauderdale. So we take the station wagon and drive down like 2 or 3 times a year. That was our vacation. And my grandmother had a place right on the beach in Fort Lauderdale on A1A.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, she had the pool, the beach, and all that stuff. So we loved it, So, so we, that was a good childhood.
All right. Excellent. Well, Jim, thank you so much for helping out this little fan here in Florida. I appreciate your time. Everyone check out Everybody is Awful podcast and keep listening to Success of a Hot Mess. I just have to hear you say Success of a Hot Mess because I know it's going to eat your soul to say something so cringy.
It's not really that cringy, though.
It's not?
Success of a hot mess. No, because a hot mess pretty much describes like that saying, someone threw me under the bus. It's kind of like, but it just explains exactly what happened. So a hot mess is like, okay, that woman's crazy.
Well, I want to be clear.
Nuts.
Yeah, not crazy, like just scattered and doing a million things.
Right, but it also rhymes, so it's good and it's catchy. So it's like, someone say, I gotta listen to that.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Success of a Hot Mess. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat. And hey, sharing is caring. Share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a dose of inspiration. Until next time, keep rocking those hot mess moments with style and grace. Cheers.